You are listening to CrossTalk, a safe place to discuss addiction, recovery, harm reduction, and everything in between. Support for this podcast comes from the Kentucky Opioid Response Effort and Advocates of Recovery. Content and production by the team at Turning Point Recovery Community Center. Now, buckle up and get ready for the show.
Welcome everyone to CrossTalk Recovery, the recovery podcast that supports all forms of recovery. I'm Matt Lewis, and I'm here with
Jackie DeMarco.
Michelle Fonda.
Welcome, ladies. I'm glad to have you on here. Jackie, I asked you to come on because, one, you're Michelle's sponsor, and you know, Michelle and I work together. But two, I've gotten to know you, not well, but through coming out to recovery through Christ and giving my testimony and playing some songs. And then you put on some recovery events there in Hopkinsville, where I've tried to be a part of. And I just have seen that you're heavily involved in the recovery community. You've got a good length of sobriety under your belt. You set a good example, and you're just trying to help people. And I know you've helped Michelle, which is really hard to do.
Yeah.
So, so we wanted you to come on to give you the opportunity to share a little bit of your recovery journey, what you wanted to share, feel comfortable sharing, and talk about some of the things going on in Hopkinsville that people could be a part of if they choose, and just raise awareness.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you having me. So I am a recovery advocate, and I believe there is hope and hope after addiction and incarceration. And my struggles with meth for 10 years brought me to in and out of jail, and caused me to be a straight menace to society. When I first tried meth, I instantly fell in love with it because I was broken on the inside. I was broken and battered, and I didn't feel good enough. And so with me using meth, it just instantly took all those ugly feelings away. And so in 2011, I checked myself into Muhlenberg County Jail, and that was my third round of felony charges. And on that experience, you know, I had pled guilty to complicity to manufacture meth and in wanton endangerment, and leaving my daughter in that parking lot, knowing that I would have to do at least 2 years. The look on her face really just made me want to do something different. So when I went into jail, I just surrendered my life and my heart over to Jesus. You know, I cried out for him to just like change every single thing about me, and I really carried the scripture in my heart, Psalms 18:16, and I feel like he reached down from heaven and he rescued me, and he did change everything about me. I did spend 26 months locked up that time, and I studied the Bible. I did Bible study. I did any class that could knock some time off my sentence. I did SAP, and I learned that, you know, for a long time I blamed everybody for my addiction. I was in a very abusive relationship with my daughter's dad, to where like I knew that if I didn't get out of that relationship, he was going to kill me, or I was going to kill him. And so there was a lot of trauma from that, a lot of trauma from my dad leaving us at a young age, choosing drugs over us. And he died when I was young. So a lot of childhood trauma that I had to process that kept causing me to, you know, get out of jail, go back to the same environment. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. And that's a true statement. So in SAP, I learned to take responsibility for my actions, and I learned to stop blaming everybody for my addiction and my problems. Really, I just had to grow up, you know. So when I got out in 2013, I didn't have a job. I got out of prison, and the only thing I had was a clear trash bag. half of that bag was papers, the other was whites and grays. I didn't have the money to get an ID. I was homeless. I didn't have a vehicle. I didn't have a job. I didn't have my daughter. But I had the greatest thing, which was Jesus and my recovery. I feel like God provided me amazing women to come alongside me in the moments that I needed. And they showed me how to live a life of recovery. They showed me how to live a life walking with Jesus. And in April, I will have 14 years of recovery.
Wow.
And I really feel it's important to have women come alongside women and just show them, there is a different life outside of addiction. There is a different life outside of incarceration.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we can't do this alone. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. And like you said, a lot of the problem, like you were doing these drugs to make you feel better because we're so uncomfortable in our own skin and we don't know any other way. We self-medicate. And, for me, it was figuring that out and finding something to replace it, which was, dedicating my life to Christ and him coming in and changing the things that need to be changed and me learning to love myself and, helping others, is so important. And like you said, we can't do it alone. And it's so important for, like, you setting an example and being able to help people like Michelle, who has gone on to help people. Like, it's the whole chain effect that has to take place.
Yeah, you can't keep what you have unless you give it away. Yeah. And two things really stood out to me that you said. You said recovery is giving you the opportunity to take responsibility for your actions, and I say that all the time. That's in my gratefuls. And because victims don't recover. That's right. Like, I have to take responsibility for my actions, see my part in everything, because I'm the problem. If I'm focused on you and what you're doing, that's not productive at all. Yeah. And then you said something else. Oh, staying connected. Like getting a support system. Not only just stay connected or get connected, but staying connected. That's in my gratefuls too, is my support system that God has given me. I prayed for 2 years for the friends that I have in my life. I came home from rehab, and then within 6 months, COVID happened and everything shut down. And I was just getting established here in Paducah, and it was like I had to hold on for dear life. Thank God I had a job working in recovery during that time. And like God leading me to working at Center Point was wild, because I was like, this isn't what I wanted. I wanted to stay in Hopkinsville. I wanted to get a job there, but nothing, no doors open at all. Yeah. But he opened a door for me to go work at Center Point. I didn't understand. I was like, it's a men's facility. That's not what I wanted. But that's what God wanted, and he used me there and gave me that foundation here in Paducah, and it opened a door for my kids to come back home. Yeah. And it's really weird, just like, for me, like God's been huge in my recovery, just leaning on him and letting him guide my steps, because I would have messed it up. I would be somewhere else doing something else, and he's just, it's weird, because the plan I had whenever I graduated Trilogy, my life looks totally different, but it's better than I ever could have imagined,
Yeah. And you were so scared, and look at you. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
and that's,
it is.
Recovery just gives you opportunity to look at all the many miracles that God has out there, and Michelle is one of those.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Absolutely. And I was the same way. I blamed God and everyone else when I got to treatment for where my life had taken me, and in and out of jail and sick, and the loss of family and relationships broken and everything. I too blamed everyone but myself, but by the grace of God, I was able to realize that it was only by his grace that I was alive and had the opportunity to change my life. And once I was able to grasp that concept and run with it and do the work, on myself, with the help of him and others, that's when the change really started happening. And you're right, man, just being able to pay it forward. That's such a big part of this, to be able to see the change happen in other people, and it solidifies the change in you, because you know, you want to set that example. You want to be, I know for me, I want to be someone who practices what he preaches, right? And when I feel like people are looking up to me, my sponsees, people young in the program, you know, I want to be that person, because there's people that I looked up to in the program that have fallen, and I know how that felt to me, you know, and I almost felt hopeless, like, what's the point if this person that seems to have it all together can't make it? What are the odds that I can? And it just, instead of that, of me letting it make me feel completely hopeless, I was able to use it as fuel. Like, I have to be vigilant in this no matter what. There's no slacking on the program. There's no slacking on what is required of me. I have to do this stuff every day, or else that could be me, you know?
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. You want to know something? My biggest issue with meetings is, despite their name, they're never about me. Here at Turning Point, all of our meetings are for you and about you. We have meetings at least 3 times a day, 7 days a week. We are located at 415 Broadway, Paducah, Kentucky. Call 270-444-3621 for more information.
Hey y'all, did you know it's illegal to own just one guinea pig in Switzerland because they get lonely? Here at Turning Point, we don't want you to ever be lonely either. That's why we're open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Always feel free to come hang with our friendly staff, and don't forget your guinea pig. We're located at 415 Broadway Street, downtown Paducah.
Because whenever I see my friends slip and they go back out, it reminds me how cunning, baffling, and powerful this disease is.
Yeah.
And for me, it encourages me to do more for my recovery. It's like, wait a second. You know what I mean? And I can't put anybody on that pedestal and be like, well, if they didn't get it, well, I can't. No, well, that's a lie. That's a lie from the enemy. That's a lie from our disease trying to trick us. Yep. You know, and I have to use that as fuel. You know, I'm like, gosh, it is cunning. You know, it is very cunning. It will get you, and for me, it starts in my mind. It starts in my thoughts. It wants to tell me I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Why are you even trying? Like, why did you even do that? You know, no, like those aren't thoughts from God. And I got to and for me, that's why I have to stay in my word and remind me who God says I am and what I can do. You know. Because it does. It's a battle of the mind for me, you know.
And that's why, like, for me, I have to have that scripture on my heart, or the scripture in my thoughts, and to know when my thoughts are negative, just to be able to change those thoughts. Yeah. Because it is sneaky, you know, and it is cunning, and it is, like, in a blink of an eye. Like, it's right there. And just to... You know, there really is a solution, and they give that to you.
To every problem. To every single. To every. Right.
You know, and it's just practicing that, you know, daily, like you said.
Yeah, training your mind to catch that stuff quickly. That's like the key. Because, like, when it comes to me and the mind and my thoughts, and it's those little bitty old behaviors that start to sneak in, and if I don't recognize them and address them, like the willingness to address them and change and do what it takes to, you know, switch that thinking, to get back on track, to get around, to talk to somebody else about what I'm thinking and feeling, then that's when you start to slide backwards. You know, it's quick recognition of it and addressing it. You know, it's so important. Yeah. And it takes work to train your minds to be like that. Like the thoughts were the hardest thing to get under control for me. Like once I got sober, it was easier to control my mouth and my actions and like all those things that I used to not have that control because of the drugs and alcohol in my system. And I was able to control it, but the thoughts were still there. Yeah. That old criminal thinking, you know, looking for the easier, softer way, ways to manipulate. All that stuff was the harder thing for me to address. So getting it under control once I did, it's about staying on top of it, because that's the ones that'll sneak right back in, you know?
Yeah, and that just reminds me from like when I first got out, I didn't have any money. And you know how easy it is to go buy a box of Sudafed and trade it for money. But I knew like I could not even do that, because then that would leave me, that's old behavior. I could not do anything that was going to be quick money, because that was living on the fence. And I've already tried the middle of the road solution, and it just does not work out for me. So I had to, that even meant not going to Walmart, and filling my cart up and trying to shoplift. I had to do everything,
with integrity.
Integrity, and that the SAP program taught me, just being an honest person, and even the little rules, following them.
Yeah, small hoes sink big ships. And another thing, I heard something once, and for me, it just clicked. Like, I have a responsibility every morning to wake up and treat my disease. I wake up every morning with untreated alcoholism. So what I did yesterday doesn't count for today. It does strengthen me every single day that I do that. So when life happens and it hits inside my face, I'm able to withstand. But to know every day I've got a responsibility to treat my alcoholism. What have I done? Have I prayed and meditated? Have I helped someone? Have I reached out for support? And I don't know. I've really liked that early in recovery. It kept me accountable. You know what I mean? It kept me accountable, and it's like, so for me, going to meetings and listening to, I listen to a lot of like church reels and stuff like that. So just feeding my mind those good things, I was able to overcome so much by just putting good stuff in. I don't listen to the same music that I listen to, because I'm real sensitive. If like my mind is very impressionable, so if I'm listening to rap music and stuff, I start walking different, I start talking different, I start acting different. So for me, I've got to just feed my mind all good things. And I had to learn how to keep myself occupied during downtime. I picked up reading. I've never read a book in my entire life until I got sober, and I really enjoy it. So for me, I've had to change everything, every little thing. And whenever my mind starts telling me bad things, not only I got to change my thinking, and just tell myself that's a lie, that's from the enemy, that's my disease, blah blah blah. I got to tell somebody and share that with someone, and so that way I'm able to share my experience, strength, and hope. So whenever I'm in a meeting and I'm sharing what's going on in my life, they're like, "Wow, she's got 6 years sober and she still struggles." Of course I do, because I have alcoholism. It's gonna stay with me for forever, and like that's my thorn in my side, I don't think I'll ever like overcome it in this life. I have a responsibility every day. I'm not going to lie to myself and tell myself, oh, well, you can break free. For me, I don't think that's my story. I think that this is it's my testimony. It's where I get to serve in ministry, helping others just like me. It's almost given me a purpose to get out of myself every day,
Yeah. And, like for me, I love Jesus and I work the Jesus program, but my sponsor is AA. So I work the AA steps. So I have both of those. And that works for me, just to continue to walk that line of what I'm being taught and to remain teachable. Sometimes, not sometimes, but sometimes Michelle, she even has to get on to me, and I have to just be open to take a look at, is she telling me the truth? Yeah, she probably is, because she cares about me.
Yeah.
So just to be able to accept Michelle's word when I'm acting out, and just to be able to take a look at that and pray for God to help me with that. It's huge, and I hope I always remain that way. Yeah. Because once I get to the place where I'm not teachable, I'll probably be in trouble.
Yeah, that's ego, know. And it took me a long time to even understand what ego was, I remember whenever I did my fifth step with Jackie, she's like, I really think you got abandonment issues from your dad. And I was like, no, I don't. Because I didn't think I loved him, you know? So, like, if I didn't love someone I didn't know, how could that affect me? It wasn't until I was 2 years sober that I was sharing something with someone, and I was like, oh, my gosh, I do have daddy issues. And I actually have mommy issues, too, you know? And I just learned so much about myself. But it's like through that quiet time, whenever I'm spending time with God, especially in the car, you know, I'll be praising and worshiping, or I'll just be quiet, and I'll just be like reminiscing about my past or something, and all of a sudden I'll get this word like from God just drop in my mind. I'm like, oh man, like that's why I struggle with that. Mm-hmm. Gosh, that makes sense. Like, thank you. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm so glad to have that open connection to God today, because I'm able to heal from the inside out. I don't have to put a mask on and pretend that everything's okay, you know, and then I can share my favorite part is sharing my experience, strength, and hope with others. Whenever I learn something new about myself, I get so excited. I'm like, guys, guess what? You know? Yeah, it's good stuff.
It is.
Yeah, very true. I'm the same way. I love finding new character defects, having someone point them out to me, because one, it reminds me that I'm going to always be working on myself. There's always going to be something to address. It also reminds me how much I need God, you know, to help point those things out to me. If I was perfect, I would start to think that I don't need God and I don't need anybody, you know, but because there's always something to work on, and so many people feel free to point those things out, you know, but I'm grateful for that, because I like working on myself. Mm-hmm. All the things I've conquered so far, you know, my addiction, all these old behaviors that I've overcome, give me courage and confidence to know that I can overcome anything if I apply myself to it. And so when I find a new one, I get excited. I'm like, I know what to do about you, you know? I have friends who will help me, and that's great. It's a great thing. Yes. Tell me, like, was Jackie your sponsor through Trilogy? Mm-hmm. Like, she's been your sponsor the whole time?
The entire time,
That's cool. How did you guys meet?
Well, I met her at Genesis whenever she was a substance abuse tech there. And whenever I went phase in Trilogy, I asked her to be my sponsor.
What was it that you saw in her that you wanted?
So and I share this all the time. Like, I knew Trilogy was going to help me get through the steps and learn the AA, but it was her love for Jesus. And I was like, I need that. I need that freedom that she walks in. That kindness and that gentleness was something that I always lacked with my children. And she just had this nature about her. It's like, and I wanted to be able to obtain that, and I knew that she was going to help me, and she has.
Amen.
Awesome.
Then she got me really involved in service work.
Yes.
Yeah, it's such an important part of this.
It really
is.
Yeah.
And a rewarding part of it.
It really is.
We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. You want to know something? My biggest issue with meetings is, despite their name, they're never about me. Here at Turning Point, all of our meetings are for you and about you. We have meetings at least 3 times a day, 7 days a week. We are located at 415 Broadway, Paducah, Kentucky. Call 270-444-3621 for more information.
One thing I have always wondered is who put the alphabet in alphabetical order. At Turning Point, our goal is to help you put your life back in order. If you struggle or have struggled with substance use disorder and are in need of help, come see us at 415 Broadway Street, Paducah, Kentucky, or call 270-444-3621 and sign up for peer support services with one of our friendly staff who have lived experience with addiction. Hope to see you soon.
Yes.
So you're involved in a lot of things up there in Hopkinsville, where you're from, right? You want to talk about some of the things you got going on?
Yeah, I actually work at Genesis. I've been back there about 3 years now. I've been working in and out of recovery for the last 11 years since being released. And so, can I share about Genesis?
Yeah.
Genesis is a 28-day program. It's a dual diagnosis program for men and women. We have 2 campuses. And, they teach the tools of on how to overcome addiction, and it's up to us to apply those tools. And I feel like most programs teach you the same tools. to be able to overcome addiction and that criminal lifestyle. And it's up to that individual once they complete that treatment program to use those tools. Because a lot of people talk really bad about SAP, and SAP played a huge part in changing my life and saving my life. And it was inside the prison. So I was just ready for something new. So there's been a couple times to where, especially when I first got out, my weight has always been a trigger for meth use, and I had gained a bunch of weight in prison. And so I thought, well, I can just use this one time and get all this weight off. And I learned in SAP, no, you can't. You have to speak about it. So I, said, I just thought about using. And, of course, I didn't. But, it got it out. So just using those tools. Right. When I went through a hard season, being in recovery and my daughter being in an addiction, that was really hard. And if I didn't have a firm foundation in Jesus, that situation could have really caused me to relapse. But looking back on SAP, what tools? Go to therapy. If I need medication, it's okay to be on medication. Go to meetings, call your sponsor, have people pray for you. And those things, again, I learned in SAP. So just using those when you need those, and not just learning them and just keeping them under your bed. You have to actually practice those. So Genesis teaches you the tools of how to stay sober. I actually do insurance for Genesis, and I do some outreach. So I really love outreach because you get to meet a lot of people. You get to learn a lot of resources. So Genesis, and we just recently opened Saving Grace, which is a nonprofit transitional living house for women. And we opened that in September, I think, the end of September, so it's not even been 4 months. And we have 7 women there. And, the Lord put it on my heart 11 years ago to open a house for women. And it took 11 years for me to see that prayer be answered. And it's a long, beautiful story of how he did it, but there's no explanation but him doing it. So at Saving Grace, we're an alcohol and drug-free living environment. We're safe, supportive. They do lab testing. They do AA, NA, or Celebrate Recovery meetings. They get a sponsor. We have a licensed therapist that comes to the house once a week to do group therapy. We do Bible study. We recently started the Big Book study there. And meeting with so we have a landlord. We rent the house. And just meeting with her, I shared a little bit about my story and about how amazing women coming alongside me when I first was released from prison was really what played a huge part in walking a life of recovery in Jesus. So this is a house where these women get that, support from women in the community. And we're just dedicated to helping women stay on the path to recovery and finding true purpose and freedom from addiction. And that life, the verse for that is my life verse, Psalms 18:16. He reached down from heaven and he rescued me. He pulled me out of water, because I feel like on April 26, 2011, when I prayed to him to change everything about me, I feel like he really reached down from heaven and he saved me from addiction. Yeah, that's pretty much that. I got you some flyers for both programs. I don't know if you have them. I don't know if Michelle gave you those already. But we are planning our 3rd annual recovery fair in Hopkinsville. September, we don't know the date yet, but Michelle can give you that when it's time. We would love for you to come and be the performer like you was going to be last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry that didn't work out.
It's okay.
I love that you're doing all that, involved in all that. I had such a good time the first one I went to. It was a new experience for me at that time. And, one thing you said that I find really true is, the application. of the tools that you gain through whatever facility you go through. And I have people ask me all the time, like, what treatment facility you think is best? And I'm like, what? The one that you go to with an open heart, you know, the one that you go to ready and willing to change and learn and then apply what you learn. You know, that's the one that's the best one. You could go to 8 of them and they all be different. And until you're ready to do something and like really open your heart and do the work and apply what they teach you, then you know there's not much is going to change. So. It takes what it takes, obviously, but they're all like the same purpose is there. Like, here are the tools, you know. So I try to encourage people towards that, and that's the same thing. Like, go in there with an open heart. You know, go in there willing to learn and not just trying to get back home. You know, but that's a big part of it.
And you see a lot of people go back to the same environment. So, like, you know, they go away for 28 days and they get a little bit better, but then they go back to the same environment. So, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And when I did drug court before I did the prison stay, because they gave me multiple chances, the court system. And I just remember the judge telling my attorney at the time of my final sentencing in 2011, your client has a drug problem, but she's going to do her treatment in prison. And off I went. But that was a whole life-changing experience in itself. And I thank that judge every time I see him, because that's what it took for me to actually cry out to a power greater than myself. But in drug court in 2009, you know, I would go to these meetings and everybody stay away from people, places, and things. And I'm like thinking, like, how is that going to keep me sober? But coming out of prison in 2013, staying away from people, places, and things really keeps you sober, you know, and not going back to those same environments. And I am huge for long-term treatment. I did the Casey Law on my daughter, and they have the option, 28 days or long-term, and I'm the mom that checked long-term because I know long-term treatment is where it's at after the 28 days, you know, just to be able to have that time to learn all this stuff. This is a lot of stuff to learn in 28 days.
Yeah, I mean, I say, like, when you're in there, you feel like they're trying to brainwash me. Like, we need a good brainwashing. You know, you got to beat this stuff in there. I went to long-term at Centerpoint, and I still had the shakes 2 months in. Like, 28 days wouldn't have been anything for me, you know, a speed bump, like times in jail. So, like, I see the benefit. And especially if you've gone to multiple short terms and you haven't seen, you've got to try at least long-term and hopefully with an open heart so that you get that a little more time away from the use, a little way to learn more tools that you can utilize, work all the steps if possible, and then, you know, come out building a support group around you, because staying connected, not going back to the same old people, places, and things, and building a new support group around you of people who want to see you succeed is essential for the success of this program. So, and,
it is.
Yeah.
You know, and so many times I have had to be like, you know, because life happens. You know, you just get caught up in, you know, well, I'm a mom and I work and blah, blah, blah. And there have been times where I'm just like, I need to do this for my recovery, but I just really want to go and spend time with my kids and do this, that, and the other. But I know what's best for me today. And I've got to choose my recovery. My recovery has to come first. And so many times I had to tell my kids, well, I've got to get a meeting today on Saturday. And then I can come pick y'all up. And then we can do this, that, and the other. And they've seen that how important my recovery was for me. And now my kids, they're involved in my recovery. They come to all the recovery events. And they're friends with my friends, you know. More of my friends showed up at the hospital when my daughter had her baby last week than her own friends. You know, my friends were praying, like before Amber had her baby on Tuesday, I think, my friends Sarah and Charles, they came up there and prayed over her. The day the baby was born, you know, they came up to the NICU, prayed over the baby. And they see through, me working my recovery program and putting my recovery first, these are the type of friends that my mom has. I can have that same thing. And so it's best to keep it in that order: God, recovery, self, and then everything else falls into place. You know, my relationship with my kids can strengthen because I'm stronger in my recovery. My relationship with God is strong. And I remember just being so fearful, like, my kids are going to be so mad I got to go to this meeting and we're not going to be able to do. That's a lie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is a lie. Because I look back now and I see why it was so important to keep my recovery first, and the ripple effect of what it's done to my kid's life. And we're so much stronger now because that's what I've done, you know.
Yeah. So true. Well, Jackie, I appreciate you coming on, and Michelle for sharing that. We're all very passionate about, our relationship with God and the program that we've worked, AA, NA, that we've worked that has saved our lives. It doesn't mean it's the only pathway to recovery. Whatever your pathway is, anybody listening, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep trying. If you haven't tried one of these pathways, try it, But there's always hope and there's always help. Just open your heart and mind. So we appreciate you guys coming on. Appreciate y'all listening. Check us out on YouTube or listen to our audio versions on Apple, Google, Spotify, Podbean, Amazon Music. And as always, stay grateful.
If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction or in recovery and needs guidance, speak with Turning Point's team of peer support specialists by calling 270-444-3621. You are not alone, and we are proof that recovery is possible.